I was born of a Māori father and a Pākehā mother in Christchurch, 1958. I grew up in a very Pākehā world, went to a very good Pākehā school. I didn't know my father because he shot through when I was about 11. So my teen years through varsity and all that normal sort of stuff were years where I discovered a sense of my Māoriness. My mother, the Pākehā parent, was the one who encouraged it in me. She named us Māori names. She loved the brown boys when she was younger. And the meaning of my name, the fact of my name, was a big embarrassment to me. I called myself Brent in those days, and Tainui is my middle name. And my experiences of being Māori in this Pākehā Presbyterian school were not positive, not because they were negative about the Māori world, in fact quite the opposite. They tried to make me proud of being Māori, but because it wasn't a part of my life, I spurned it, I guess. So when they tried to call me Tainui, I objected. When they made me stand up in front of the class and poke my tongue out, I objected because it just wasn't a part of my reality. When I went to university and survived by getting a Māori Education Foundation grant, the committee, when they gave me the money, were interested in my academic record, but mostly they were interested in me as a person. And I kind of felt guilty for getting bucks for being something I physically was, biologically was, but culturally wasn't. And so I made a commitment to go to the Māori Club, Varsity Māori Club, this back in '76. And I had one of those, you have a moment in your life where all the stuff falls into place. And I remember the tingle up and down my spine as I found myself in a bunch of natives singing Tū Tira Mai Ngā Iwi, and thinking, shit, this is me. And I changed my subjects that night and started that night my journey into my Māoridom. April Fool's Day '84 I started in television and never looked back, and I kind of like that because I think to myself, I get the joke. And pretty much I found, as I've found since that day in '84, that everything in television and subsequently film fits me like a glove. Whether it's presenting or producing or directing or writing or whatever, I love it all. I ate it up. And I was asked recently at a talk by a young kid in Taupo. He said, what am I most proud of? As if there was a certain film or documentary or whatever. And I said quickly, because I think about this stuff, I am most proud of having enjoyed everything I've done. Every program, small or big or whatever I've done, I've always made it my job to find something about that I enjoy. I've always tried to find some magic about that, well, I think's magic. But I've also known from the very beginning that that can be a very indulgent way of thinking, and that ultimately it's just masturbation. You really have to have empathy. I can be as self-indulgent as I want about nice shots, nice script, wonderful story. It doesn't mean diddly squat if it can't touch another person. And that's why my learning about being Māori and moving in the Māori world has been important, because I've learned empathy, I've learned what it was like to be with other people or to, and all of that, and I've always enjoyed that. And so I'd like to think that my greatest satisfactions come from having enjoyed going to work every day and enjoyed something about I'm proud of everything I've made. And I'm kind of blown away about that when I think about it, particularly when I think about my colleagues who, you make shit because you've got to pay the bill. Partly I haven't had to because of happenstance. The period in history I turned up. I turned up in a time when there was a turning of the tide and there was a belief in the system that Māori television counted, and we had to make way for it. And I happened to be there at the right time. I remember back in Koha days, I was producing 87 or 88, getting a letter from a guy in Lower Hutt saying, thank you for your programs, they help me to understand my neighbour. Or a young Māori man in the east coast of the North Island doing badly at school suddenly sees the New Zealand Wars and becomes a history buff, and then goes great guns at school purely because it's seen that particular program. So my life and the things that I've made have frequently engendered that kind of response. I'm not saying that I'm a great program maker necessarily, but I like to think that the ideas that I'm working with at the time are ideas that find favour with other people, that's all. And if I can dress them up in an appropriate way, which are just craft issues really, if you can touch someone, and if you can understand that person in order to be able to touch them, then I think you're doing your job. And because my life has been one of discovery of myself as much of other people as other people, and having been very aware of that all the way, it's worked and it's been good. I think about this stuff a lot. When the Māori television service was mooted, and again they went through their own controversies and so forth to get off the ground, I knew that whenever it started that it would have to get its acts together from the very first frame. I knew too that in the period since the Aotearoa television pilot, we had upskilled ourselves and we'd grown, and so we're in a better position to be able to do this. Eventually, when it beamed to air, March 04, indeed from the very first frame they haven't put a foot wrong. I always knew that Māori television would work, not just for the Māori but for the country. It doesn't take a genius to look at our demographics to see that there are many young Māori coming through who are familiar with their Māori side as much as their Pākehā, and you marry the Māori Mōhio and the Pākehā clever, you get magic. That's that generation. So that they have put what they have to air well, professionally, with creativity and commercial smarts, marketing smarts, has not surprised me one jot. None of it has surprised me. It was always able to be foretold, in my view, if you knew the scene and if you had a single iota of optimism. I go to the supermarkets, I walk down the streets and I hear mums and dads talking Māori to their kids, and I feel enormously proud, partly because I know that my mahi has helped achieve that of my colleagues, but more particularly over recent years because the Māori language, the Māori television service has made it acceptable by being normal for there to be te reo Māori at all hours of the night. I'm excited by the programming, the stories that they're telling, and I remember that the racism that we faced in the early days in the 80s from Pākehā has been replaced now by envy.